Hi, everyone. I am really excited to share some things with you tonight about verse mapping. When this first question was first posed to me, I must confess I had to look up what it meant. And then I was very surprised to learn that it's what I already do. And so that was exciting to me. And so I asked the person who asked us for some clarification on what she wanted, what she was looking for. And she basically said that she wanted a formula and then useful, adequate, reliable resources and tools. And so I'm going to share with you what I use whenever I'm hashing out a verse, studying it, and looking into it, diving deep, and let you kind of see my process. And like I said, I figure it out. I've been doing this all along. Whenever I write my emails or blog posts or whatever it may be that I'm writing, when I do lessons from, and then I'll have a book of the Bible or lessons from a particular verse, or I'll highlight a specific verse. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that it's what I'm already doing. And what we're going to have for the purpose of this call is 4 C's. So the 4 C's are going to be context, which is the most important one in a lot of ways, clarification, connection, and commitment. And so we're going to go over what each of those are. And I hope you'll be patient with me and learn with me. And I'm excited to share what I have learned in my brief, um, I guess, research about what verse mapping is, and then putting my own spin on it with as far as what I do. And hopefully it's helpful to you. I'd love your feedback. And we do plan to make some graphics and some tools to help you move forward if this is something you're interested in doing. And you can always reach out to one of us as well, and we'll be glad to help you. So, the very first thing that is most important is context. If you've listened to Cheryl, Christy, and I ever, you know that context is very important to us. Defining terms is very important to us. You cannot make something say something that it didn't ever say. That's not how Bible works. So you want to look at who wrote it, if we know the author. You want to look at who was the original audience, what was the setting, what was the time period, what's going on in the history at the time, and you're going to look at those things, and you're going to figure out what the message meant then. So context really matters. There's a lot of people who will take a verse out of context, and we're going to look at one of those here in a minute. And the amazing thing is, yes, every part of the Bible has a message for us today, but it also had a very specific message at the time it was written. And so while God's promises are for always, you have to look at both the then and the now. And so we're going to do some examples of that. The second C that I want to look at is clarification. My favorite tool to go to outside of YouVersion is Bible Hub. Now, Bible Hub is a lot like YouVersion in that you can compare multiple versions, but it takes it a step higher because it's got a direct link to Strong's Concordance. So you can highlight specific words and you can look up where that word appears throughout Scripture and what it, where else it's found, how else it applies. And it's amazing. You can then look up phrases you don't really know or understand. Sometimes even our translators don't know what a particular word or phrase really meant. And so some of the translation is guessing. And that's always interesting. But, there's no harm in saying, I don't even know what this word means in English, and having a dictionary to look it up. And there's no harm with, pulling out a thesaurus and finding synonyms for words you do actually use and understand, as long as, going back to the top, you're not missing the context. You're going to want to write down keywords to these verses you're looking at. You want to look at multiple versions. So in YouVersion, you can compare multiple versions. Now let's talk a little bit about the different Bible versions and what that means. So some people use the word translation. That's a misnomer because translation, everything is English. It's all English for most of us. And so, no, translation is the wrong word. Version is the word that we're going to use. And you have what's known as word for word translations. You have what's known as thought for thought translations. And then you have paraphrase. Okay. So the word for word takes whatever the original language was, puts the English equivalent in, and then they turn it into a sentence. Sometimes the sentence has to be rearranged a little bit. For example, Hebrew is written backwards to English. Greek, I believe, has no capital letters, no punctuation. Not confusing at all, right? So there's a lot of things we've had to kind of guess, where those things go. So some good examples of word for word translations. I believe the New King James was one. The Berean Study Bible is one. And I think ESV is one. The NIV is actually a thought for thought translation. And that means they took a sentence and then they gave you the main idea of the sentence and kept most of the thought in place. And there's nothing wrong with that. I will say if you are using NIV, if at all possible, look for an NIV 1984. You're going to have to probably go to a thrift store or used bookstore to find those. I don't believe they sell them anymore. Every NIV now is a 2011. And there were some changes that were not okay to that. Evan, Cheryl's husband, uses the ESV when he preaches. And so I enjoy that one for just everyday reading. Then for some thought for thought and paraphrase kinds of things, I love the language in the New Living Translation, the NLT, because it paints a picture. And I love words and I love imagery. And a lot of people think in pictures. A lot of people are very visual. And so for that reason, whenever I compare versions, I'll have ESV, I'll have NLT, and sometimes I have the Amplified Bible. And what that one has is it's got lots of synonyms within the verse. Cheryl says that some of them are taken from the actual Greek and Hebrew words. I have not studied that part out. I'm not sure because my dad is really kind of against the Amplified Bibles. So I don't really know. But it's good if you're not using it as your only Bible. We have to be careful about that because we want it to say what God intended it to say. So right now I'm going to show you what Bible Hub looks like. I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, that's crazy. Just a moment. I'm going to do it this way. So that's fun. There's a weird ad on the bottom of the screen. Okay, so I chose the verse that we're going to look at as Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Because this is one of those verses that's often taken out of context. I really don't know how to get rid of this video. That's kind of silly. So you have, like I said, I enjoy the BSB, which you're going to see. That's the default for Bible Hub. And it is a literal word for word translation. And so it's going to take those words and directly translate them. Now, this part here, like I said, it's often taken out of context. I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. But look at what Paul's saying before that. He's talking about how rough he's had it. And he's talking about how he knows how to be content in every situation. So If you don't know how to be content in every situation, you're not going to really be able to adequately proclaim that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. So, something to think about there in the making connections, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So, I'm going to go back here. And so, like I said, you can click on words and phrases, and it's going to tell you other places you can see that. So this is linked directly to the Strong's Concordance and some other ones as well. So it'll show you this is what the original word is. It means to empower. It's a verb. To fill with power, to strengthen, to make strong. The in intensifies the sharing power ability properly to impart ability. So we have been made able to do all things because Christ strengthens us. It's a lot different than saying I can do anything because Christ strengthens me. At least I kind of think it's a little different. There's also a mobile version of Bible Hub, which I have on my phone. And another one that I have on my phone is the Enduring Word Commentary. I think that's what it's called. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. Yes, the Enduring Word Commentary. Now, with commentaries, do be careful because commentaries are written by a person and people are fallible. So you want to take what's written there, but you want to then study. And that's how you get the most out of your thing. So first is context, second is clarification, then we're going to go into connections. So yes, Paul was writing that verse to the church in Philippi. He was telling them, I've been through all this tough stuff, but I've learned how to be content and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So what is our application? That's where you start making the connection. You don't make it just based on that one verse any more than Jeremiah 29:11 is meant for you specifically. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. That verse was specifically talking about bringing the captives back to Israel to rebuild the temple. But his promises are throughout all generations. And his promise is for all of us to have a hope in a future when we do what he has told us to do. So you can still make the application. Just be careful about how you do that. And then the last C is commitment to action. So how are you going to put into practice what you learned through this word study? How are you going to share it with others? Are you going to write emails? Are you going to write blog posts? Are you going to do Bible studies with other people? Are you going to do speaking events? Or are you just going to sit on it and not share it ever? You have to decide what you are going to do. We are all called to do more than just keep the word hidden in ourselves. We don't hide the word in our heart to not share it. We hide it in our heart so that it can't help but come out. In Matthew, it says that from out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you should be, whatever you're filling your heart with, that is what comes out of your mouth. And when you're filling your heart with these studies, then you're going to have that outpouring. Yes, don't let someone tell you that God commanded you to build the ark. That's not quite right, is it? Any more than, yes, I believe God can do just about anything and everything except for the things that the Bible tells us he cannot do, like God cannot lie. But it also says, don't tempt God. So I'm not going to go walk into a fiery furnace and say, oh, he's going to keep me safe. I'm not going to go put my head in the lion's den because he kept Daniel safe, because those same promises are not specific to me. But I am going to preach the word in whatever means and ways he gives me to do so. And I don't see any questions on here. Um, and anyway, so I'm going to make a graphic with these things. And then I will share the resources like Bible Hub, but it's pretty simple, BibleHub.com. It's great. It's a lot easier, more affordable than, say, getting your own Strong's Concordance, which is like this big. I don't know. It's really big. I don't know. Do I have one? I have several books over there. I don't even know what all I have. But for the sake of ease, Bible Hub is super simple as far as, hey, I want to know more about this word. And you click it and it takes you to all of them. And it's got multiple concordances. Strong's is just the most popular, most comprehensive one out there. And that's about all I have to share. I hope this has been helpful to you. You can continue commenting with questions and one of us will answer them. If you never see an answer from us, like within several days, you should tag us because sometimes Facebook doesn't play nice. And we do our best to overcome that, but occasionally we do miss some things. So you can feel free to tag or message us anytime, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. And keep those questions coming, both in the Bible study group or this one or the main one, whatever. Any of them, you can ask us questions. You can personally ask us questions. We are here to serve you, and we enjoy doing so. And I've got to go because we're getting ready to go on a trip and do more planning that's all about how we can better serve you. So if you have things you want us to think about and look into, comment and shoot us messages with those things too. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.